Hello, this is Congressman Andy Ogles, and welcome to episode 41 of Restoring the Republic. We have a lot to unpack for you today. We just got back from the longest shutdown in history, but while we were away, the Democrats were fighting for illegals, not for Americans. And so that really segues well into the topic of today, which is the invasion of our country by illegals and the Islamification, the targeted Islamification of some of our communities. So have two esteemed guests with me, members of Congress, Mark Harris from North Carolina and Keith Self from Texas. But let's hit the highlights. Look, the Democrats shut down the government, and all they wanted was health care for illegals. Now, I say all they wanted because that was about illegals, not about you. You had individuals, employees going without pay. You had choke points and traffic issues with the air traffic control, making Americans and travelers less safe. This was a selfish attempt by the Schumer shutdown, and Hakeem Jeffries to hijack the process and punish you along the way. And so, but look, let's get right to it. I will say, point of privilege, I was appointed, chosen to be the chairman of the Cyber Subcommittee on Homeland Security. It's an honor. We had a hearing today. We'll talk about that later. But look, let's just get right to it. Middle Tennessee is Memphis. Tennessee has been one of the hotbeds of Homeland Security, working to, quite frankly, deport rapists, murderers, child traffickers, sex traffickers, etc. I have close ties with Homeland Security, obviously because I'm on the committee, but also pre-existing relationships. And the cooperation between local law enforcement in Nashville and Memphis has been a huge success. Never mind the ridiculous mayor of Nashville. But now we look to North Carolina, where we saw the horrible stabbing of the young woman, Irina. I'm not going to try to say her last name. I'll let you do that. So let's talk about, Charlotte, North Carolina, November 17th to 18th, 2025, you have Operation Charlotte Web, over 200 arrests in one day. You had gang members, traffickers, rapists, murderers, the Mecklenburg school system. You had an incredible absentee rate where illegals are pulling their kids out of school, which underscores the numbers of individuals that have come into our communities, which is intentional. But let's talk about North Carolina. Take it away.
Well, Andy, first of all, thank you for having us here. Keith and I are honored to be a part of this today. And congratulations on the chairmanship of the subcommittee. And I know we're thankful that you're in that spot and helping make our nation more secure. And certainly Charlotte has seen its share recently of things that have happened that really have kind of put it at the forefront of this battle that's going on. You mentioned Irina Zarutska. That was an issue that happened back in the fall, where this young girl had escaped Ukraine, came to America hoping that she was going to have a new life. She was a refugee coming out of that war-torn country, only to be making her way home from work on our light rail. She'd gotten a job at a pizza place. She was going home from that when a guy came up behind her. Actually, he was sitting there. When she sat down on the seat in front of her, he was sitting behind her like he was asleep with his head there on the window. And next thing you know, he's up with a knife and comes up from behind her. She never sees it's coming. And he stabs her and kills her. This was a guy that literally had been arrested 14 times prior. In fact, just a month earlier, had sat in front of a magistrate who basically said, if you just sign this statement promising that you're going to show back up in court, then you can go free. He had been picked up earlier. And so he signed that statement, was back out on the streets. It highlighted all of the problems that these left-wing policies are creating in our cities across the country. It's the reason that President Trump ran on a restoring law and order platform that was so crucial, because our cities have seen this kind of thing taking place. And so really what ended up happening as a result of that is we brought the Judiciary Committee to Charlotte. We did a field hearing there highlighting some of the problems that were taking place. And recently as just a couple weeks ago, I sent a letter, took lead on a letter, and some of my colleagues from North Carolina joined the letter asking Governor Stein, our Democrat governor, to bring in the National Guard. And the reason we did it is that the Fraternal Order of Police had identified that they were 276 officers short of what they need to do adequate policing in Charlotte. They were the first ones to make the plea. We just came in behind them, backing the blue, as we always do, and saying, Governor, bring the National Guard, at least for a short-term solution, not a long-term, but it'll be a short-term solution to give them the support so we can get our policing where it needs to be in Charlotte. And he has continued to put that off. And so last Friday, surprising everybody, in comes the Border Patrol. And it has been a great, great move. And Border Patrol came in, as you mentioned, with just in the first few days. This morning, we've been getting a report every morning. And as of this morning, there's more than 275 arrests that they've made. They are getting people that are in that 18th Street gang. They've gotten people, MS-13 gang members that was arrested. They've gotten people wanted for murder in Honduras. They've gotten individuals. They're taking these folks off the streets of Charlotte. And that's making a huge difference. But I guess one of the things that came to light for me in the midst of all this is the Migrant Policy Institute, which is not necessarily the most conservative. They just simply try to track where people are. They themselves, I just learned yesterday, say there's 100,000 illegal immigrants in Mecklenburg County alone. That's the county where Charlotte is the center city.
We look at the operation Charlotte's Web, and of course, unrelated, the stabbing on the train.
Yeah.
And that points out two issues. One is the illegal immigration, and then separately, and why I brought it up, is this activist judiciary.
Yes.
That whether it's repeat offenders with mental illness and drug abuse problems, that they're literally putting those individuals, legal or illegal, back on the streets. And then also we're being invaded.
That's right.
And so this is an intentional, in my belief, my mind, intentional by the Democrats. So one would ask Joe Biden, why would you let millions of individuals here come into this country? It's two-pronged, in my opinion. One is when you look at those states that have population flight, like California or Indiana or New York, they're backfilling that population because they're coming to Tennessee.
That's right.
They're coming to Texas and Florida. But part of it, too, is really to overrun our cities. Yes. And we've seen it in Nashville firsthand. And, you know, I've been a very quite frankly, militant on this issue of illegal immigration. Deport them all.
Right.
If you want to come here, do it legally. Now, granted, I understand we have to overhaul our immigration system. I know it's broken, but no amnesty, folks. I'm sorry. Right. That's my opinion. I'm not speaking for these congressmen, but let's jump to, I think we have a clip that we can react to, and then after that, we'll shift over to Texas for a minute.
Okay.
Class typically has 16 students in it. We have 4. District-wide, there are 145,030 students enrolled in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. On Monday, 30,399 were absent. 28,136 unexcused. So that was kind of the line even among that.
Well, I mean, I think that just underscores, I talked about that in the opening, but just the sheer number, 30,000 students. Like my home county's only 100,000 people. You know what I mean? So that's a small city for much of the United States. And so this underscores the problem we're having across America. Yes. And part of it is financial. I mean, obviously, look, I'm a compassionate guy, but if you're going to come here, do it legally. But you, the American people, the taxpayer, you're paying for those services, education, healthcare. Right. You just go right down the list. And then when you look to New York, not to get us off topic, the rent control, right. That's primarily benefits, wait for it, illegals, people that are here illegally. Now, we've seen it in Nashville. We've seen it in other cities across the country, this intentional Islamification. And I get called a racist because of this, but at the end of the day, I'm sounding the alarm. All you have to do is look to Europe. All right? You don't have to believe me. Look at Paris, where there's no-go zones. Look at London, where there are no-go zones. The country of Sweden, roughly 80% of all sexual assaults in Sweden are at the hands of a West African of, quite frankly, Muslim origin. And so we have a problem that has swept across Europe, Frankly, Eastern Europe has been the buffer. That being said, former communist states, but now we look at conservative states like Texas, and you're seeing it right in your own backyard. Keith?
We are, and there's a reason for that. As Texas goes, so goes America. As America goes, so goes the world. They know that they have completed the conquest of Dearborn, Michigan, frankly, Michigan. So now, and I am told by the people who are engaged deeply in this, that they are moving families from Michigan to Texas today. So this is serious. And I've been wondering now for several weeks, actually months, why the jihadists have gone on the offense right now. Why now? Because they have, nationwide. They have. We're seeing more imams do more things that are against the law. So what do we do about it, is the question. There's no doubt it's happening. We look at France, we look at the UK, there's no doubt their intent. We know that. So what do we do about it? Frankly, I have taken the position that this Sharia, which is the law of Islam, Islam only has a patina of religion, just a thin patina. It is a legal code that is meant to dominate culture. They come into a different culture, they intend to dominate it. And so I am focused on the rule of law. Just recently on the floor of the House, I mentioned the 13th Amendment, abolition of slavery. There has never been an abolition movement in Islam. The 6th Amendment, impartial juries. They don't even pretend to do that. A Muslim man, a non-Muslim man is inadmissible in a Sharia court. And when you talk about women, women are second-class citizens under Islam. There is no doubt about it. I mean, they teach classes on how to properly beat your wife. It's something we cannot even fathom. So we need to understand, first of all, they are intent on changing our culture to Sharia. As long as we understand that, as long as America wakes up, we'll be okay. But I will tell you that the Sharia, the jihadists, they're very open. They will use our freedoms, they will use our laws against us. Absolutely. Because they consider them too soft, and they believe that they can get around them. That's what's happening in America.
Well, I mean, I've been a pretty loud voice critic of Mamdani and sounded the alarm that they were electing a Marxist, socialist, a communist. I mean, he checks all the boxes, Muslim. But that being said, we have a clip to play. But I think some might say, well, fine, three white congressmen, they don't like them, whatever. You don't have to listen to us. Read the Quran. Read their book. Listen to the imams, and not the ones that are in Afghanistan and the Middle East, the ones that are here on U.S. soil, preaching in Tennessee, preaching in Texas, and they are literally advocating for the overthrow and undermining and overthrow of the United States and our way of life. They know they can't invade us. All right, all of the Muslim countries, none of them have the capabilities of doing that. So the only thing they can do is essentially come to our nation and breed their way through our society. And I hate to say that. That's harsh. It's going to offend somebody. So what? Wake up. Play the clip. This is in Dallas. And so as you watch this video, again, this is not in the Middle East. It's not London or Paris where you might expect to see it. This is in the heartland of America. I mean, this is this is Yo South. This is Texas. By the way, without Tennessee, there wouldn't be a Texas, but we can talk about that later. Remember the Alamo. But there's been a controversy that is now boiling over about this huge community where essentially they want to create their own town. There's going to be, several 100,000 homes, whatever. They want to have their own school. And they, quite frankly, it would become a no-go zone for Christians or individuals who are not of their faith. But I think this is emblematic of the issue where they're not just doing it in Dearborn, Michigan, or up in Minnesota. You saw the election up there where the Somali guy, the only reason why he wasn't elected is that you had two clans within the Somali community and they hate each other.
Right.
And so the only thing they could do is the voters voted for the wackadoodle socialists, which again, that was your choice. You had the wackadoodle or the guy that hates America. And, obviously, which one's worse? We could debate that over a cup of coffee, I guess. But, here we are, and really that kind of that red, when I think of Texas, I think very conservative. I think of cowboys and boots and country music and just really Americana, just like Tennessee, but they've literally invaded your state.
Well, that clip that you just showed, that was 10,000 people. Wow. You only showed a small part of it.
That's right.
So, look, we need to make sure that no one is intimidated because this epic city, they renamed the Meadow that you referred to. Mm-hmm. But there are other places in the town of Murphy. There's an area where all the street names are named after Muslim heroes. So this is well beyond Epic City. But Epic City has about almost 500 acres. They've got another 1,200 or so under contract. So this will be a major area. It's going to be built around a mosque, and they're going to use, and this is a key point, they're going to use contract law to get Sharia into our system. They already do it with divorce contracts. And we've had a case in my district where in the divorce, a Sharia court said, yes, you have to accept the divorce contract, where the women got nothing. And because it was a contract, a U.S. court accepted it. Wow. We have got to stop that. We cannot allow Sharia to insert itself even into our judicial system. So the contract law in now called the Meadow, this epic city, it's very strict. You can invest a certain amount of money. If you're the right person, you can actually build a house because of your investment. When you get ready to sell it, they will make sure not only are you the right kind of person to buy it, but you have to sell it to the right kind of person. So yes, this will be a Muslim city if it goes through.
Well, and I think this underscores, again, we fought a Cold War over communists, Marxists trying to infiltrate our government and our institutions. And I think that was more widely accepted and obviously necessary. But I think our history is repeating itself. But the difference now is that it's Islam. And that Islam recognizes that they can't win a war with us. Even if they have kinetic, asymmetric type attacks like 9/11, at the end of the day, the pain point is so severe for them in their homeland that it's probably not worth it. So the only thing they can do is to come to this country, weaponize the Constitution, weaponize our state constitutions and our laws against us. But now we find ourselves, are we going to wake up? Are we going to recognize is that we are now on this next Cold War, where we have to identify the new enemy, which is Islam, and we have to, quite frankly, get back to our roots. When you look historically, William Penn set up the state of Pennsylvania. He was a Quaker. He called this his religious experiment. He was religiously tolerant, but that being said, you had to abide by our values and you had to assimilate into the community. Yeah. The faith of Islam does not allow for assimilation. Now, they'll sugarcoat it. They have that fine veneer that you mentioned, but at the end of the day, they are here to weaponize their religion against us, weaponize our own faith and our Constitution against us. And if we don't wake up, we will, mark my words, be just like Paris, just like France, just like London and the UK. And if we don't wake up and we delay, it'll be too late. We have votes, and so just really want to close, give you each the opportunity to kind of talk about your perspective on immigration, whether it be just the illegals from Latin America and wherever, Islam, and of course, to you, Keith.
Well, and I want to point out, Keith asked a question I thought was a really interesting question. Why now? What is with the timing that the imams have become more aggressive? I don't have the answer to that, but I think it's a fascinating question. I have to wonder, is it because now is a time they want to test our resolve? Do we have a resolve? Do we have a real foundation in our faith that is going to be strong, that is willing to expose the reality that is behind what they're doing? I think that's crucial. I do feel like that this is a crucial time we're seeing in Charlotte. It is again once thrown a spotlight on what has happened in our city. We've got to do something. The leadership in our city has become more and more to the left. The decisions that they're making are more and more to the left. And I think the citizens have got to wake up and recognize that we've got to be engaged. And, you talk about the faith. As a pastor for 36 years, one of the things I have emphasized time and again is that we need pastors to be willing to be courageous, to be willing to speak the truth unapologetically, week in and week out, and help equip your people. In fact, I try to tell folks all the time, if there's anything you can do as a pastor, you need to be willing to make sure your people have an awareness of what's going on in our culture right now. You need to be willing to equip them for being able to stand in these days and know how to share truth in the midst of a lot of error that's going on. And then you've got to be willing to mobilize. You've got to be willing to get your people engaged and involved. And if there's anything we can do as we come into the midterms, I think it's important for folks to recognize the seriousness of the moment that we are facing, and we've got to begin to be more engaged than we've ever been before.
And I'll follow up on your point as to why now. I think part of it is timing. I think they recognize the fact that the midterms are approaching. There could be a flip in the House, that the president only has one term. You have another election. But they've had these sweeping victories in Europe, especially in the mayoral races. Now you have Mamdani in New York. You've had these kind of really socialist candidates come out of the woodwork, and that socialist Marxist, it overlaps well with the Muslim kind of agenda. And so I think part of it is sometimes you don't know until you're in the moment if the timing is right. And I think they're seeing this as this window of this kind of this Overton window where this is their moment. But I am here to say that I'm going to push back and I'm going to fight. And I'm with you. The pastors need to stand up and recognize that our Christian values, quite frankly, is what's going to save this nation. We are light on the hill, and we need to defend it like hell. Pardon my French, Pastor. But to you, Keith, in Texas, I mean, obviously, there's a lot to unpack here, but we've secured the border. The incursions are at a minimum. Obviously, we have threats from China and all these other things, but we have this internal threat, that fifth column that again is, I think we all need to be aware of, those threats from within. And I think Islam currently is the fifth column.
Well, I am original co-sponsor on 3 bills that have already been filed. I am dropping another bill today to declare the 5 imams that have a fatwa against Trump and Netanyahu as specially designated global terrorists. We have got to do that. But that's the federal level. Yeah. Frankly, I want to encourage people to, at your local level, individual citizens, individual police forces, city councils, county commissioners court, you need to be taking action right now in your local area to do this, because at the federal level, we've got to turn words and speeches and announcements into action to start defending our culture now. There are plenty, and we could go into them, plenty of actions under Sharia that are illegal according to our law. Let's make sure we don't let anything slip.
So Keith, where can individuals find you online?
Whatever the format is, Rep. Keith Self.
And of course, obviously he's on socials, and there's an official campaign page. Mark?
Just Rep. Mark Harris, NC 8.
Well, I'm Congressman Andy Ogles, Tennessee's 5th Congressional District. This is Mark Harris from North Carolina, Keith Self from Texas. We are here as patriots warning you it's time to wake up, get involved, get engaged, make sure that your member of Congress is doing and saying what we're doing, which is warning America about this invasion. Thanks to President Trump for securing our border. Now it's our job to defend this nation, defend the shining light on the hill, and never, ever back down. Thank you for tuning in, and God bless.